I love the idea of human form. It's one of my favorite things to be photographed doing and photograph on my phone, watching people and the shapes that their bodies can create. A lot of this will depend on what the subject is. Dancers work really well, people that have that ability to be quite malleable with their joints and body and move with quite a fluid motion, but I don't know if that's what we're gonna get. I'm excited. I've been waiting week after week to see when Flash was gonna be thrown in the mix. I knew it was coming. I've never, ever used a Flash before, like so many of these settings, but Flash more so has always seemed to me quite daunting. When I'm in studio and being photographed, I see a lot of fiddling that goes on with Flash, so I don't know if I'm gonna have that level of knowledge to effectively fiddle with settings and flashes and how they work. I see the models walk in and I take a huge gulp because there's such a variety from a ballerina to a heavyweight lifting type physique. And it's always gonna come down to what is going to be in my lucky packet today. Let's see where ignites when the bodybuilder walks in the room. He loves the male body and the male physique. I think he connects really well with them. And when he sees the bodybuilder, he's hungry. That's what he wants. With the tattoo artist, out of the 5 models, he's the only one that doesn't utilize his body for his art. His art is on his body. So his body's essentially a stationary canvas that I'm going to need to extract personality out of as well, if I was to get him. My vision is to go with quite soft lighting, dark background, really try and get his tattoos to pop. I want a little bit of contrast in the lighting as well, because I think he has that sort of dark and light element to him. We had a quick conversation and he is quite lighthearted as well, so I don't want to go super dark. And then as a bit of a curveball, I thought I'll throw a prop in the mix as well. Jade is lovely. He's giving me loads of poses and interactions and taking a lot of initiative. It's not quite aligning with what I have in mind. His poses and his actions are slightly more theatrical, so I think they're interpreting through the lens as quite contrived and almost animated, and I'm wanting just more kind of stoic, strong, emotional, speak to me with your eyes kind of poses. So I am letting him play around. I know that if I just stop him and correct him and tell him that's not what I want, I don't want him to start getting his guard up and being overconscious of what he's doing. So I'm just kind of crossing my fingers and praying to the pose gods that eventually we'll come around to a happy medium. I'm getting shitty light. The light's just not cooperating. I'm moving it left and right. It's too bright initially. Then I get the light right and I just feel like my focus is not right. And then what happens to me when this happens is I hit the panic button immediately. I lift my camera, I take shots, it's completely dark. Starting to play with my f-stop. Why is this dark? Well, you know why? Because she left the bloody lens cap on. I'm in the last 5 minutes. I'm changing things up faster than I can review them. I'm just sort of shooting, changing, shooting. I'm looking at the odd one, like the last one, but I'm not going through everything. I'm not confident at all at this point, but I'm going with the more is more concept and hoping that amongst all of that, there'll at least be one. You only need one, at least be one that I love. Nina's talking to me, Maps is talking to me. I'm not actually hearing any of it. I'm quite short, I think, as well. And that's because I feel like I didn't come in and do what I wanted to do today. So it's more frustration at myself. I haven't looked at anything. The model's asking me if he can see the photos. At this point, I just want everyone to go away and I just want to sit in a corner and look at what I've got. I'm flipping through my photos and normally there's a spark. When I see the photo I like or even half like, there's a ooh or ah, or I can see how that could work. There's nothing today. Whether it's lighting, model poses, whatever the reason is, there's just no connection. The elements that stood out for me when we were given our brief was to capture personality, and one of the main things was human form. So when I look at the way I've captured my model, there's definitely form, both in how his body is positioned, but also his form is a canvas, and that's all in there. I drive in today and Cradle Moon is beautiful. There are animals around as you drive down towards the lake. I see a waterfall, I feel a very breezy wind coming my way, and I'm very curious about what we're going to have to do today. Super excited that we are getting to shoot nudes. I think it's a really creative art form and something you don't get to shoot very often. I am hoping for one of the girls. I think I understand female body a bit better than male body, and I think it would be quite creative and you have a lot to work with, but it's always the twist that worries me. My model walks up to me and she's beautiful. She's got this beautiful skin. She's super friendly, lighthearted, and I can see that she'll be quite easy to work with. I try and make her feel as comfortable as possible and just let her know that my goal is shape. It's about covering the things that might be a little bit too contrasty for some ideologies, I think is probably the best way I can put that. But also just work with the shape of her body, the curve of her back, the triangles that her arms and legs can make, and the way that her chin can sort of lift up and down and tell me a story of femininity and female form. My goal is to either use foliage or part of the environment to cover certain areas of her body or her actual limbs, but I'm very conscious of her looking like she's hiding, because hiding's not the goal, it's just clever placement. I've selected 3 locations today. They're fairly close together, but I also know that I take a little bit of time to get into my location. Time seems to fly. 20 minutes feels like 2 minutes when you're on these shoots. And I think one of the things I realized today is I want to really be conscious of my markers, so 5, 10, 15, so that it gives me enough time to give myself variety. One thing I do realize though is there's small things that need tweaking when it comes to body. So an arm may be slightly forward, slightly back, a toe might be pointed or not pointed, and all these things take time to adjust, which is time out of those 20 minutes. Okay. The last location is definitely where I see pieces coming together. I feel like I need about 10 minutes more though, just to make adjustments to foot, arm. I can see it building up to what I want it to be, but it wasn't quite there. I also wanted to explore the idea of her sitting on the log at the back while the front log frames her. I ran out of time to do that, but I am super happy about the shapes she's created in the nape of her back, the shapes in her leg. So I've ticked that box a fair bit, so hopefully it's enough to keep me here. Time is up. I definitely have options. Whether they're ones I'm jumping up and down about, no. Are they as bad as the previous challenge? Definitely not. There's definitely enough for me to fiddle with and play with. And I think for the first time, I might explore pushing this into the black and white space. I prioritized 12, and within those 12, I've got 1 or 2 from each of my 3 locations. So I wanted to review and see which one of those ticks the boxes of what the brief was, as well as eliminates from a technical perspective anything I could possibly be marked down on. For the first time, I am submitting black and white. Traditionally, even with my own content, I always like color. I'm a very color-driven personality, but I think with the shape, the texture in the trees, and the exposure, I'm quite happy to submit a black and white option for today's image. I walk into the room, all the photos are great. Ivan's and Jono's stand out, they're beautiful. The Cizwe's just sparks humor because of all the banter he's had behind the scenes about how well endowed his model was, but I can definitely see that Nomvelo's and mine are well below par compared to the rest. Although I am pretty sure I haven't done enough to stay in this competition, there's always that little hope that there's going to be that 1 or 2 pointer that saves the day, that the averages work out, that there's a little bit of a safety net for me, but definitely the least confident I've ever been. Very disappointed. I think I had a lot more to give in the competition, but I know I made mistakes, and I think at this part of the competition, you just can't afford to make them on 2 challenges back to back, which is what I did. There's definitely sadness. As a group of 10, we've come down to 5, which means we spend so much more time together. Even the larger group, we were so well connected so fast, it feels like you're leaving your best friends that you spend every single day with for the last few weeks, and that they sort of go on their journey without you. But it is what it is. That's the nature of the competition. Someone's got to win, and 9 of us have to lose, and today that's my turn.